Now, when I first got this, I really wanted to like this. I bought a $129 pencil. So, of course, I wanted to like this. Not to mention the cost of this thing, but I really did not like it. I'll be honest with you. It was not great. I have a set of tools that I'm comfortable with, that I know will produce predictable results. I know what I'm gonna get when I pick up a pencil and a sketch pad. Not so with new tools. And so sometimes I think that can make you complacent and can keep you from getting new things. And getting new tools definitely forces you to learn new skills and pushes you to places that you might not have otherwise explored. So when it comes to sketching, I'm pretty old school. It's always been something done in the analog world, on paper, in sketchbooks, on trace. So I had a hard time figuring out how that might translate to a digital environment. So a tablet was never really that interesting to me. I think this is the peripheral that has bridged that divide between the analog and the digital. And it's made using a tablet actually really enjoyable. So if you're considering getting a tablet for your practice, whether you're an architect, an intern, a student, I'll tell you why I chose this model and some things to think about as you sift through all the options that are available. And there are a ton of options out there, and I realized when I started researching, there was a lot that I didn't know. So it's important to start by saying the tablet's not a replacement for a desktop or a laptop. The kinds of software you need to run on a desktop, whether you're an architect, an intern, a student, BIM, CAD, graphics, 3D rendering, word processing, those are all better done on a desktop or a laptop. So a tablet at best is a secondary or a tertiary device, supplemental to your workflow. That said, I think it's important to think about the different use cases. How are you going to use the tablet? And that's going to help you decide which one to get. So 4 use cases that I came up with, see if they overlap with any of your use cases. So the first and most obvious use case is this device is a mobile office. And we're talking reviewing, editing, signing, sharing documents. The tablet, I think, is the device that makes the paperless office possible. If you think about the architecture practice in general, it's definitely a paper-hungry, paper-intensive business. If I think about all the sets of drawings, the rolls of drawings that I drag with me or prints that I make to have a conversation with a client, if we can eliminate and reduce that waste by using a tablet, I think that's a good thing. Tablet, it's not a mobile workstation like a laptop might be, but I actually think that's a good thing when you're traveling. I'm not asking it to be a laptop, but its screen size means it's more useful to me than a phone. So the second use case is drawing and ideation. It took me a little while to get used to drawing on glass. It's not a natural experience necessarily, but when you start thinking about the possibilities of having a layered system, the fact that you can have undo in a sketchbook is transformative, actually. On an analog sketchbook, you make a mistake, you're resigned to flipping the page and starting your sketch over. With layering, it's possible to sort of free yourself from that. Also, you open yourself up to all these collaging techniques. There's augmented reality, which I realize is sort of in its infancy, but that's an amazing technology. And the fact that you can stand out on site, snap a photo, begin sketching options and iterations in real time, and then share that out with all of your team members and your collaborators, that starts to transform what is possible with the digital sketchbook. My next use case was field work. And we're talking site recon, surveys, client presentations, job meetings. The fact that you can load an entire set of drawings, whether that's in PDF form or it's your BIM model or your CAD drawings, you can load that onto your tablet and be able to pan around and zoom and make queries on that. That is a really convenient thing rather than, dragging an armload of drawings with you to the job site and then needing to search for a work surface to lay them all out on. The portability of the tablet and the fact that you can hold it in one hand and navigate all that information is, again, efficient and convenient. So my final use case is as a creative tool. I think we all need to consider ourselves as media corporations these days. We're all in the constant flow of creating and curating content. And when that can happen on a single device, that makes the process that much more seamless. So let's say I'm working in Lightroom, I'm editing some photos, and I can take this photo and I can share it out to the workspace in here and then upload it to Instagram, for example. Or if I'm working in Procreate, then I can create a quick time-lapse sketch and then upload that immediately to Instagram and then use the on-screen keyboard here to type up all the metadata. That's much more convenient than taking the photo, importing it into a desktop environment, doing all the photo editing here, exporting that, sharing it out to my mobile device, my phone, and then uploading that to social media and creating all the metadata there. The tablet helps to remove the friction from creation to curation. Now, all of that goes without mentioning how wonderful this is as a device to consume media on. And I realize that's an incidental thing, but it's worth mentioning. So once you've considered your use cases, you know what you want to use it for, I think the decision becomes a little bit easier. For me, everything I'm doing, my entire workflow is built around the Mac ecosystem. So it's a fairly obvious decision knowing that I want to draw and use it for drawing and ideation. If you're not in the Mac OS, if you're in Android or Windows, I still think if drawing and ideation is important to you, iPad should probably be at the top of your list. Go and test the Surface, compare it to the iPad. I found the drawing experience on the iPad to be much more immediate, responsive, fluid, and natural. But also compare the apps you want to use. If you have a suite of apps that you're using in a Windows environment and you want to be able to move in and out of those and between your tablet, that's enough of a reason to consider something like a Surface. And if you're using it more as a mobile workstation, and drawing and ideation is less important, then maybe the Surface is a better choice for you. For me, I chose the 11-inch iPad Pro. There's a couple of reasons I chose that. Primary one was I wanted to be able to use the new Pencil from Apple. So this is the second generation of the Apple Pencil, and that only works with the brand new iPad Pro series, third generation of the iPad Pro. A couple of the reasons you might consider getting the Pro. The first is the screen. This screen is laminated glass, and what that does is it puts the tip of the pencil as close to the pixels beneath it on the screen as you can possibly get it. And that does matter. Having used the first generation of the Pencil with some older iPad models, when the pencil tip was separated from the pixels below it, it gave it kind of a squishy feeling. Second reason to consider the Pro series is the RAM. So especially in apps like Procreate, if you want to get the full document resolution out of this device and also the maximum number of layers that you'll be able to use in some of these applications, you'll want to go with increased RAM. The Pro series, third generation, all models have 4 gigs of RAM except for the 1 terabyte version that has 6 gigs of RAM. So pay attention to that, look at the apps that you're using, and make sure you're not limiting yourself by choosing a lower end iPad series. Now, if you do choose the Pro series, you have 2 screen sizes to choose from. This is the 11-inch model. There's also a 12.9-inch model. I went to the store, test drove them both. So you can see it's very similar to the standard size sketchbook that I like to use. So this is the blank sketchbook. You can see this is A5 size. So it feels comfortable in the hand, and I'm not someone who enjoys sketching on large sheets of paper, so for me this is fine, and with digital sketching you can zoom in and out as much as you'd like, so it makes it really comfortable to use. Holding this in one hand was important to me. I want to be able to sit on the couch and use this to sketch. I want to be able to take this out to a job site and hold it in one hand, and this is well balanced, feels great in the hand. The 12.9 to me felt heavy. It felt a little bit unwieldy, but actually I think you just need to test it out and see which one is more appropriate for you. Because the pixel density between the 11-inch model and the 12.9-inch model is the same, it means that your UI is going to have some impact on the amount of real estate you have. So you can see here in Lightroom, in the portrait mode, it takes up about a third of the screen, the menu does. If we tilt it to the landscape mode, it's probably about 20% of the screen here. So that will matter because it'll take up a larger percentage of the screen, obviously on the 11-inch model than it will on the 12.9. If we come over to an app like Procreate, this UI is really minimal and it's fully featured. There's a huge feature set in here, but they've designed it with the mobile experience in mind, and it just makes it really nice to use. So when you're considering storage, this one has 256 gigs. The base model of the Pro series has 64. That didn't seem like enough headspace for me, although given cloud storage and the fact that this now has USB-C, you can plug a SSD, a portable hard drive, right into this, or you can use a portable flash drive to get photos on SD cards on and off this device. Cloud storage means it kind of obviates the need for a lot of storage here. The first cost for storage on iDevices is always really high, so I'm not getting the base model, I'm not getting the top end model. This is 256 gigs. It's enough room to put all the applications I want on here and also keep it so that I'm not having to clear files on and off of it every other week. So when we start to add in things like the battery life, which really does matter on a portable device, we look at the chipset, and this isn't a benchmark review or anything like that. There's plenty of those reviews online. You look at the screen refresh rate and how just enjoyable it is to swipe through this and use the device. All of these things combine to make this a device that is just really fun to use and nice to use. And If you enjoy using it, it means you'll use it more and you'll get more value out of your investment.
Okay, let's talk accessories for a minute. Micro SD and regular SD card reader, USB connection. This just plugs into the USB-C port at the bottom. I use this to move files on and off. Of course, you have the cloud. Not totally necessary, but for camera work and video work, I like using that. We have the Apple Pencil. This is the 2nd generation. Feels beautiful in the hand, like a heavy colored pencil. The tips are replaceable, so if they ever get damaged, and I've dropped one of these on the floor already and it has damaged it, so that does happen.
There's also a flat edge, and the flat edge allows it to snap onto the side of the iPad here, and that's the charging mechanism, and also keeps it next to and tethered to the iPad. But that flat spot also allows a place for you to sort of rest your finger. So tapping on this with your index finger, double tapping, switches you can see here between different tools in various applications. In Procreate, switches, you can set it up to either clear the layer or switch between the eraser and the pen. So, you know, they've just really been smart about how this works. And then if you set it down on a surface, you know, it's not going to roll away like the Gen 1 pencil did. That little flat spot kind of catches it, so it keeps it from rolling off your desk.
Pressure sensitivity is pretty incredible. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do. This is a must-have accessory as far as I'm concerned. And the only other accessory is a matte screen protector. So this one's made by Paperlike, and I'm testing it out. You can see it definitely reduces the screen fidelity, but it improves the writability. I didn't love writing on glass, and this feels better, definitely feels better. Any matte screen protector will do. I happen to get one made by Paperlike because it was reviewed very well. But if you're using this for media consumption and not drawing, I'm not sure I'd recommend getting that matte screen protector. So it's a trial run here.
I didn't get a keyboard or a case for this, and you know, I always have a hard time with that. This is a beautiful device. I love the form factor. It's got these sort of square edges that you found on the iPhone 4 and 5 models and the SE. I just love that. It's great for gripping it. It's actually a lot less slippery than the rounded models. You know, I was never one for adding cases and all these ugly glommy sort of dongles and things to this, because I think it's just a beautiful object in itself. I think once you start contemplating adding a keyboard, I mean, this device is already fairly expensive, $700 or $800, depending on how much storage you're getting with the Pro model. Once you add a keyboard to it at $179, and you have the Pencil, the 2nd generation is like $129, you could have a really powerful laptop for less money, actually. So we talked about 4 use cases. Let's look at a few of the apps that I'm using to satisfy each. In the top row here, we have Time Page by Moleskine. This is my calendar app of choice. The graphics are just beautiful. There's a sort of to-do list called Actions, and you'll see that is here. It's also made by Moleskine. This also appears in my Today view, so I have quick access to my calendar. The next one is Dictate and Share. So think about punch lists and site observations. Hey Siri, dictate.
What text?
Change the door hinges on door number 104. Dictate something, text it to yourself, email it to yourself. It's a quick way of using this as a mobile device without having to use a keyboard. I think it's important to understand that the iPad is all gesture-based. So, you know, if you can use voice, if you can use your pencil, if you can use gestures to complete actions, it's just going to be much more efficient, and it obviates the need for a keyboard. Moving along here, let's go to Trello. So Trello is Kanban-style cards to track tasks, and they're set up on different boards, so you can see you can move the tasks from board to board. Particularly helpful if you have a team. Now that I have discovered Notion, I'm using Notion more and more. So Notion is a sort of wiki-style project management software. It's incredibly powerful. I'm just kind of scratching the surface of what's possible with this. There's a variety of views. You can have calendar views. You can do the board style, the Kanban board style, tracking projects. It's very powerful. So I've moved off of Evernote almost completely in favor of Notion. So one other thing that I want to mention is the Notes app. So if you tap the screen with your Apple Pencil, brings you right into the Apple native Notes app, and you can begin taking notes right from there. Pretty handy. So drawing and ideation, I have two favorites here. Procreate is seductive, intuitive tools. This is just distraction-free drawing. You can see that the UI here is really minimalist, just beautiful tools. I mean, this is exactly like using a colored pencil. And even to the degree that if you tilt your pencil, you'll have a sharper edge. I mean, it's just, and if you tilt it up higher, it's just, wow. I can't say enough good things about this. This is the app that made me persevere and see the possibilities of digital sketching, so I can't say enough good things about Procreate. Second app I'll mention here is Morpholio's Trace. So Trace was designed by architects for architects. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife for drawing and ideation. And you can see here there's lots of different tools. You can bring in PDF sets here, do layers, you can pull up maps. So I've pulled up a map here. One of the weaknesses of Procreate is that it lacks scale. Morpholio has all of the scale tools you need. So even to the degree that, if you're zooming in, so let's say for example, I'm doing a lot of work at the shoreline zone and we have setbacks. So you can quickly tell from this map, what buildings are in the setback and what buildings are not in the setback. So this is the 250-foot setback back here. And obviously it changes with the water line, but you can tell, scale-wise, this is really, it's a very powerful tool. And they also have augmented reality tools. You can spin your 3D model around. You can come in and let's say you're measuring a project, and instead of drawing the floor plan, you can just kind of come in here and begin taking your measurements and writing your measurements right on the screen. 3 foot oh. This is an 8-foot ceiling. I feel like I have just begun to scratch the surface on this one too. So for field work, Acrobat, I think, is a very useful tool. Loading your drawing sets up here, being able to zoom in, pan around, navigate those remotely. Everything here can be synced to the cloud. And I've actually found signing documents with the pencil in Acrobat, also very handy. AutoCAD, if you still use AutoCAD, like I do. There's also BIMX for ArchiCAD. There's Autodesk 360. Load your drawings in the cloud. I think the value here is if you complete a set of drawings, you don't have time to generate the PDF, you can just bring it with you like this. Upload it to the cloud, and then you'll have it with you to reference while you're out on site. The drawing tools here are not robust at all. I can't recommend them. It's not designed to do any real CAD work. If anyone has any suggestions for markups, drawing markups, aside from Acrobat or Trace, I'd love to hear them. I've seen Bluebeam Review, not very well liked in the App Store right now, so do tell me in the comments if you have one you like. Same thing with field reports. I'm really new to this, so I'm still vetting the apps. So just let me know what you guys like and what you're using. So the last thing I'll talk about for field work, presentations. You can obviously use this as a portfolio tool. Here I'm using it to present ideas to the client. So I have this all configured up in Keynote. You can edit in here. I'm not sure I love the editing suite of tools. So you could create presentation tools on the go, but I think this is more for presenting to the client. So our last use category is as a creative tool. Lightroom, I really enjoy using Lightroom on the iPad. So adjustment brushes with the Apple Pencil are just really easy and intuitive to do. So this is the kind of tool you want to use when you're on the desktop. And so here, I really definitely appreciate it. Once you've edited that in Lightroom, come on over to Instagram and we can start uploading that from here. So we'll add an image, we'll choose the image, go to next. Looks good. We're gonna come and write our caption in here, so you can equally type this out, and that is oftentimes what I do. We won't post that to Instagram just yet. So the last thing I'll mention is the ability to screen record. So a lot of these apps have built-in time-lapse features, but you'll notice they go very fast. So having the screen record allows you to capture more frames, slow it down a bit, and maybe make a more useful tool for you. So I have to admit, some of the multitasking gestures, either I'm not good at it or I'm doing something wrong. Like you're supposed to be able to dock things over here and nest them, and it doesn't always work for me. So I don't know what I'm doing. Potentially I'm doing something wrong here, but I have to say it's not as intuitive, and I like kind of miss the home button just a little bit. I like having this extra real estate, but it doesn't feel like maybe I'm not quite doing something right. If you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. Am I just getting old?